It's here. We made it. It's football season. Bully here, Gully there. And we're going to start off with the kickoff. What's going on, Coach?
Not too much. How about you?
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's about time for some football.
Football made it. Well, like I said, let's kick things off. New kickoff rules. Looks strange.
It is.
To say the
I
least.
think it's a little goofy. I don't know what to think. I personally think most teams might end up just trying to kick it out of the end zone and take it on 30 versus with having that other, having the teams so close to one another, on that far end of the field. If you get that speedster that can get through like one hole, he's virtually gone.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems like kind of a big risk.
It does. It does. I was a fan of keeping the kickoff one way or another somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It just adds a different element to the game. I wasn't a fan of all the touchbacks and just starting at the 20, or sometimes I think it was the 25
for the
incorporated that.
Yep.
So I was a fan that they made some adjustments, kind of made it to where you have to kick off to let them catch it, because you're going to, like you said, get it at the 30 if there's a touchback. And I believe if it's short, they get it at the 40. Now, I don't know if they can return it if it's short or if it can only be returned inside the 20. But
Right.
It's so far, it looks really cool. And I'm a fan because, like I said, I'm really happy to see that element continue on.
Yeah, well, absolutely. They have to keep the kickoff. But to a certain extent, I just kind of hate that it's just. Granted, I know people are getting injured and it's affecting them in their life after football, but they get paid millions of dollars, it just seems like it's the whole, like we're getting one step closer to flag football.
Yeah, and we definitely don't want that. Now, like you said, everyone's getting paid big bucks, so they can get injured on a regular play.
Mm-hmm.
I understand safety is important, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but do they not sign a waiver in part of their contracts to basically not complain? Because if you complain that much, stop playing.
Well, yeah, or you should have picked up baseball or badminton or
right,
something like that.
And now you got the safety helmets, whatever those new foam things on the head is called. Trash, ugly. For the love of God, take them out. It is. I can't deal with that either.
Yep.
Just make the helmets better and take away these things. If it's another, I believe it's only like 2.5 ounces. I believe it's pretty much all foam. But if it's 2.5 inches, how much taller can you be? Is that going to affect, a quarterback's passing vision or some sort of vision for the players? Is that even a fair thing to have?
Yeah.
Even though both teams can wear it, I don't like it.
I think, we just go right back to, leather helmets.
There you go. Let them headbutt each other and find out the hard way.
Exactly.
Who the men are. Let them get kicked in the teeth.
Start looking like old hockey players, with toothless smiles.
I like your hat, by the way, goalie.
Thank you.
A little Vikings action here.
Yeah, crucial catch. Everybody go get checked.
With his purple uniform as well.
Yeah.
Showing the spirit. Vikings
I
came from behind, had a nice little kick from Richard to win the preseason game against the Raiders.
Yep.
But they did endure a loss of an injury to JJ McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had talked prior to even starting this podcast about how we had feelings about drafting JJ McCarthy, trading up to 3 or 4 because that was the hype about it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel now that what did you get him at 10?
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
What did you see?
I really think that in that game, I mean, he ran the offense really well. I thought, obviously, not right off the get go because he threw the interception, but after that, it
Yep.
seemed like he kind of settled down, kind of found his rhythm. Uh, Made a couple of really nice passes there for scores. I mean, um, I don't know. I've got some pretty high hopes. I think.
It was
Granted, it's a preseason, week one.
yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt, right? But I
Yeah,
mean, it's
yeah, playing
promising.
against third stringers, trying to make the team, or they have to go back to the office and work a regular day job. These types of guys,
Right.
these weren't against your all pro defensive players as well. Now the rebuttal that people are going to get, well, they played with third stringers too, sure, but did you see how open those receivers were?
Mm-hmm.
We could make well, I don't know, maybe not. It's hard to throw a 40-yard pass if you ever try it. Go outside and try it with a regular pro football.
Yes.
It is not as easy as it seems, but
Yeah.
if you're an NFL quarterback, you got to make all those passes. He did his job. But with that torn meniscus, could be out a few weeks, maybe
Yep.
even into halfway through the season. I don't know how long it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference because the team was starting to plan on Darnold starting,
Agreed. Yep.
and then if he ends up going 2-8 or 2-9 or 3-11 or whatever, because the schedule is rough,
Yep.
very rough on the first half, that JJ would just get some reps in the second
Mm-hmm.
half of the season, and I mean, if he's injured now, he's just going to watch from the sidelines as he would normally. He just won't get the reps. And kind of like what you were saying before is, yeah, it was important for him to get more reps in the preseason. It was what we needed from it,
Yep.
But 11-17, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you said, he did throw the pick. But I would
Yep.
say as far as all the other rookie quarterbacks, probably one of the best. I mean, he had the most playing time, but
True.
one of the better performances.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other guy that kind of was close to him was probably Bo Nix in playing time, but
Yep, and he looked pretty good too.
yeah, he did. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really am not too concerned with the McCarthy injury. I really think that we were going to have Sam Darnold be the starter, and you know, and give JJ time to really understand the offense before we essentially put him in for real game time. So
Yeah,
obviously it sucks that he's going to miss out on the rest of the preseason to get reps in. Right. I think I think that's ultimately the biggest thing that hurts him.
yeah, yep. Getting more playing time, getting comfortable.
Yep.
But I think it was only that there was only outside of 2 plays, Sam Darnold was the number 1 guy with the first team offense in all of the practices.
Right.
So there shouldn't be a question as to who it was originally going to be from the get go.
Yep.
And everyone might say, well, he had a great performance. Sure.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. This is tryouts. Okay. There's other people all across
True.
every team that, like we said, are trying out to do something. Is that going to affect kind of Sam Darnold's situation now, because he might have been led on to be a mentor on the field, but how is that going to how is he going to be a mentor with an injured guy?
Well, I think they do a lot of film study. They do a lot of things in the quarterback's room that they go over. So JJ McCarthy's still going to get all that, right? And that very well could help him in the long run, just because he's not going to have the pressure of knowing that he has to start. Now, it doesn't look like he's got much nerves, right? But
Yeah.
some players kind of crumble if they come out a little too early, especially if the whole team's on their shoulder, right?
Mhm.
Week one, you're our starting quarterback, get out there,
Yep.
and then they sometimes crumble under the pressure and they never live up to the hype, and you know, next you know it, you know, they got the purple drink going on.
Yeah. Yep. That
Yes,
that they are drinking the Kool-Aid.
yes.
And a lot of people are drinking the JJ Kool-Aid thinking that he was going to be our long-term guy. He still could be. Obviously, this might slow down his ability to get his footwork better, to kind of learn the timing with the
Yeah,
the offense, the snaps, and doing that. But
yeah,
like you said, if you do enough film study, you just got to rehab, and it's not like he did anything more serious. So
right.
it's not R.I.P. JJ yet.
Yeah, yeah, and
You
it's
know,
when it comes to like torn meniscus, it's something that you can still have a really long career over. It's not like
well, Adam Thielen did that a few years ago. I think he missed about 6 games or so, but I mean, he was on the backside of his career, but still has been productive.
yeah, well,
This is a younger guy. Joe Burrow blew his leg out and went to the Super Bowl afterwards.
yeah,
So it's not the end of the world.
agreed,
I think it's a little overblown, but Minnesota doesn't have much more to talk about yet.
agreed, agreed.
What did you think about some of the other guys?
Um, yeah, you talking about the other rookies?
The other rookie campaign, first round
Well, I
quarterbacks.
think we should probably just go right into one of our topics here for the week.
I suppose we can.
Alrighty. All right. So we decided to discuss the top 6 quarterbacks drafted in the NFL draft, um, and to kind of do a ranking based upon what we perceive their career to be in the NFL. Um, so I'm going to quick read off where they were drafted, and then we'll start from number 6 and move on down to 1, going back and forth. Sound like a plan?
That works.
Alrighty. So we got Caleb Williams from the Bears, who was drafted number 1 overall. Number 2 overall was Jaden Daniels for the Commanders. Next, we have Drake May, drafted by the Patriots. And then in a surprise pick, I believe at number 10 was Michael Penix Jr. for the Falcons.
I think it was 8. I think the Vikings traded up to 10.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Never mind. Yep. It was 8. And then, yes, then the Vikings took JJ McCarthy. And then Denver took Bo Nix.
Right after.
Yep.
Yep.
So
I thought that was a surprise. I did like Bo Nix, but I thought that was a very big surprise that he went number 12 when just a lot of projections, so many teams, all the analysts, everyone was thinking late first round, maybe early second. So it was surprising to see 6 quarterbacks out of the 12 picks, but it did make it a very exciting draft.
it really
time,
did.
I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right. So who do you got at your number 6?
So I'm going to throw a curveball in here, Gully. I have
What?
Joe Milton.
That's not in the script.
I'm going to put Drake May at number 7.
Interesting. Okay.
And they drafted another quarterback, Joe Milton, out of Tennessee. And he looked better than Drake May in their preseason game. And I think Joe Milton might be the new long-term guy. So I am going to throw that curveball and say Drake May 7, Joe Milton number 6.
Interesting.
Even though he wasn't an option.
Interesting. Okay. I actually went with Michael Penix Jr. as my 6th. Now he did actually play a decent amount of time. He went 9 for 16 for 104 yards. he is known for his accuracy, but his accuracy was kind of up and down. Now, as I probably already said in the podcast, I mean, it is week one, so you take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they have Kirk Cousins, and I think Kirk Cousins isn't one that's going to probably retire early. So I think that's going to slow his career. Obviously, I think what's going to happen is Atlanta's probably then going to sign him to a second deal because they want to ensure that if he turns out to be, that guy, that they can keep him for a good length of time, right? As their franchise QB. Now it's just a matter of, are the Falcons going to be good enough that he's going to be able to live up to his where he was drafted, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think there's a lot to be seen out there. I mean, I did read that some people thought he was the best QB coming out, but I guess I'm not really buying that hype.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty solid. Like you said, it's going to really depend on how Atlanta does. Bijan being a rookie, Drake London is young.
Mm-hmm.
They traded or signed Darnell Mooney. Rondell Moore just got injured, so I could see another prospect or a trade happening to kind of fulfill that offense. Kyle Pitts. So they definitely have some weapons and some young guys to really build around.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's 25 already right now. So if he doesn't play for 2 years, he might be get his really first game at 27 years old.
Right.
Well,
wasn't that a 3-year deal that Kirk Cousins signed?
4, but only 2 guaranteed.
That's right. It was a 4. Yep.
Yeah. But if you wait until at that point in time, how ready is he going to be? Because we've seen Green Bay is probably our number one, nemesis, but example of sitting a QB and seeing how well it works from time after time. So this could be an opportunity to do that. And even Tom Brady came out on a podcast and said, look, man, these teams need to be sitting these quarterbacks longer than they are instead of just throwing them right into the mix. So it really could pan out well for him. It could slow. It's going to be way one way or the other. I don't think it's going to be right in the middle on what you're going to get with him after he's ready to go.
Sure.
Now, if Kirk gets injured and he's right in the mix right away, that's a possibility. But we're just taking everything, black and white on paper is what we have in front of us right now.
Well, I'll give you
no ifs.
So you're right. So the one thing I will say about your Green Bay analogy is the fact that, as soon as they got Brett Favre, they really didn't wait for him. He got in there, right? Of course, Rodgers sat because Brett Favre didn't want to retire. But really what it was is he didn't want to practice, and that's why he did the whole retire bit until Green Bay finally just said, hey, dude, just get out of here. Right?
Yeah. We got this guy now. Let's go.
So now they did kind of the same thing with Jordan Love, but the thing of it is we only got really, like we even talked about in our last podcast, he's only got like eight weeks of good quarterback play.
Right.
So I don't know that we can necessarily say that Green Bay was a genius on that yet. So
no, but as far as most other teams really haven't sat much for quarterbacks, and we haven't seen guys be as successful.
Sure.
Right off the bat, kind of a deal, and coming in, being that type of a quarterback. So
I'll give you that.
Number 5.
Number 5, I have Drake May. Yes. And the thing the thing of it is I actually am kind of a fan of his, but he's raw. So he and for whatever reason, the Patriots only played him just in one possession. So he was 2 for 3 for 19 yards. Bailey Zappi got most of the play, which is I think that's absurd. Why do you pick a guy third overall to basically sit him?
Play?
Yeah, I mean, come on.
And Bailey Zappi's had not enough opportunities to be, the guy, but he's had plenty of game time experience to where this is the preseason. This is why you got to bring in Drake May, get him going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like that move that they did, just not playing him.
Yeah. So just with that, I don't know who their quarterback coach is, but if he's not somebody who's really good, right, in this kind of weird approach, how they're handling Drake May, to me, it doesn't seem like necessarily a recipe for long-term success.
Right.
So
it's almost looks like another Mac Jones in the making early on.
That's a really good analogy. I mean, obviously, one weekend, but I mean,
and they both wear number 10. That's what I'm going with.
The curse of the number 10.
Now, Drake May was a target that the Vikings had on their radar for the draft, and most of the scouting reports said he wasn't NFL ready as far as every other quarterback that was drafted in the first round. And so I don't know if they're trying to baby or pamper him coming in or what it was all about, but I don't expect him to start slinging the ball and acting like the third, quarterback.
Right.
My number 5 was Penix.
Weird.
Pretty much for every reason that you had said as well. Just I'm fearful of him not getting in after a couple of years, and if that's going to hinder his performance or if he can learn that much. It's hard to say about Kirk Cousins. Is he going to be a leader and a mentor, or is he going to be selfish? Now, most people from Minnesota might say, well, he's such a nice dude. Yeah. But I do feel like there's a lot of selfishness, especially when you're talking those contracts, and it's a me thing. It's not what can we do for this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know how much he's going to really influence that. And Michael Penix is left-handed, so Kirk Cousins can't throw left-handed. Boom.
Nice.
Number 4.
All right, so number 4, I have Caleb Williams.
Whoa, hot take.
Yeah, so he did look pretty good in his preseason debut, right? He was 4 for 7 for 95 yards. Had a really nice, almost no-look pass to DeAndre Swift for like 40-some yards. I think, I'm not saying that he's going to be a bust, but I don't think that, especially being on the Bears have never had really a superstar quarterback that is going to lead the league in anything. And I am not really sold with their coach. They definitely have a lot of talent on their team. But I think he does have talent, but I don't know if he has, everything that it's going to take. I think he was a stretch when they took him at number 1.
Yeah. Great points. My 4 is Jaden Daniels.
Interesting.
Kind of a hot take here as well.
Absolutely.
And I really liked him coming into the draft. Just kind of doing some comparisons here and there. I kind of what you said with the Bears. I kind of feel the same with Washington. Um,
Mm.
you do have Scary Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. You got rid of Curtis Samuel. Brian Robinson's an okay running back, but you have a Dan Quinn as your head coach. You have a defensive-minded head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Where's their focus going to be? I don't feel it's going to be on quarterback development and a guy that's taught these quarterbacks to really shine in the NFL. And
Right.
I think he's going to be stagnant for a little bit in his progression. And he's got all the skills and all the tools in the world. I just don't know if that coaching staff and that team right there is going to be his success. Now, there's a chance he could go elsewhere and have an amazing career. I think if he stays there, it'll be just par.
That's
He'll just be average.
it's tough to argue with some of those takeaways. I really think that he has a lot of talent. I actually think he probably could have been the number one quarterback drafted.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep.
And I don't know. It's
I think for Jaden Daniels, it really depended on where he went, and what you surround him with. Now with Caleb Williams, they did get some more weapons for him. If Jaden Daniels went to Minnesota, I think he would probably rank higher up on my board. I think it really depends on, and O'Connell is a little bit more of a quarterback's coach than obviously Dan Quinn or Matt Eberflus.
Sure.
So it really depends on where you go.
Yep. And that's probably not a bad take. I was trying to think of who Quinn brought in as, say, his offensive coordinator and his quarterback's coach, because that can kind of make a pretty big difference as well. But
I can't remember if they brought in Cliff Kingsbury. I know he went and signed, agreed to some team, backed out, went to a different team. I just don't remember if that was Washington or not.
Sure.
And he, he's kind of been a quarterback's guy as well.
Yep.
But we still haven't seen, the Super Bowl version of his quarterbacks. They've just kind of been, maybe a playoff team. So
yeah. Well,
he hasn't gotten my full attention on how well he is as a quarterback's coach.
So the one thing though that the Commanders did do, I mean, they did bring Austin Eckler in. So, but he very well could be past his prime, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But they also brought in Martavius Bryant, who who hasn't played since 2018.
Oh my gosh, the guy back from the dead or something. I mean,
he's 32 years old.
Laid him to rest a long time
ago. I saw that. I was like, what?
That is the best option you could find out in the receiver world.
Apparently.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, now I got to move him up on my list now. I can't.
Well, they were thinking about getting Odell Beckham, but then he signed with Miami. So,
this is the next best thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's right there on my board. Yeah.
Next week, we rank wide receivers.
Yeah. Every wide receiver over the age of 30.
That hasn't played in 4 years.
Yeah.
Or 6, or I guess
6.
I guess it's 6. You're right.
So, all right. So we got for number 3.
Number 3.
This is where I got your guy Bo Nix.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I like Bo Nix. I probably wouldn't have been disappointed if the Vikes had drafted him. I mean, he was pretty accurate. Had a little bit of a shaky start at the beginning of the game. Went 15 for 21, 125 yards and a score. I think the Broncos probably have a reason to be excited. I mean, I think they got what could be their next franchise quarterback. Could be there for a long time, And Sean Payton is an offensive guru. I I think he's going to be pretty solid. I think he's going to be pretty good. There could be definitely worse places that he could have landed, right?
Right.
And maybe not
Yeah.
utilize his talent, right? Or not give
Well,
him
like you
the
said,
instruction that he needs to succeed.
15 to 21, and the only receiver that I can think of on their team anymore is Cortland Sutton,
Yeah.
and
Marvin
he's
Mims.
nowhere near another number one.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
um,
Sutton's pretty
so
solid.
their roster definitely needs some help, and for him to kind of come out as a rookie and do some things is kind of it's looking good for him.
Yeah.
So, like you said with Sean Payton, because I mean Russell Wilson didn't have that great of a season or that bad of a season last year. It wasn't great,
Right.
but when Peyton came in, you could tell a difference in his play and how less mistakes.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously he's no longer there, but I think Peyton's going to make that difference there, even though I don't like him. But
Yep. Gotcha.
um, my three is JJ McCarthy,
Interesting.
and
It's too bad you're
was
wrong.
not high on was not high on drafting him. Most people know this, but I will obviously cheer for his success. I It still sticks with me that in the time to not throw a pass in the second half of college games, to not throw the ball when your team absolutely needs you to make a play and they choose to run the ball instead. I just don't see that as the most killer instinct. You weren't the first option on your team, and now you're chosen to go into the NFL. And I think, like we said about Jaden Daniels, if he was with Minnesota, he'd be higher up on the list. If JJ McCarthy was not on Minnesota, he would be further down my list. But offensively, they do surround him with some pretty nice weapons. And when he does come back from that injury, I think he will have some success because you have Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson,
Yeah.
Jay Jettas, Aaron Jones. The list goes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I mean, we
Or
are
starts,
pretty
whatever.
stacked. No doubt about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Right on.
your two.
My number two is Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
Yep. So now I do agree with some of your takes that you had put him at number 4, right? If
Yep.
I'm remembering
Yep.
correct, right?
Yep.
Um. So, um, yeah, he wasn't in very long in the game. 2 for 3 for 45 yards. He did have a really spectacular pass to De'Ami Brown for 42 yards of those 45 yards. But De'Ami Brown was covered, and he laid it basically right over the top of him, just like the defenders. The only way the defenders would have had a shot is if they would have been maybe a step faster than him to catch it on the way down, or to swat it away on the way down.
Yep.
It was really nice play. And then he also had a nice little play near the goal line and basically ran it out to the corner and scored on a rushing play. I think, really when it comes down to probably the talent, I really think he's probably got the talent to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he has the stack or the deck stacked against him, just because of, like we talked about, Dan Quinn, a defensive coach, you know, they do have a decent, you know, wide receiver trio. I mean, they got Martavius Bryant. I mean, but but
They
no,
got the goat. I mean, what do you want?
yes, but no, I just I like him. I think he has a chance to just beat all the odds. So that's kind of
Sure.
what I like about him. So just
Yeah.
very athletic and very good passer. So
My number two, Bo Nix.
I'm shocked.
It's kind of a wild card shot at number two, but he was absolutely prolific in college. I think he's one of the top 10 most yards passing in college history. Dude knows how to
Okay.
sling the ball. I believe it was a game against Washington that he was just immaculate and just it was a showdown between him and Penix, and he definitely took the reins on it. So the guy knows how to throw the ball. He knows how to read defenses.
Right.
And if he's got a head coach like Sean Payton to kind of lead him in, maybe he doesn't stay there his full career, or maybe they get another receiver that's just top notch. Maybe they trade for, someone that is looking to get out of one of their teams, like an Ayuk that we have talked about in the past. We can bring that up afterwards, but if they bring in someone like that or another tight end or just some other dynamics, he could be absolutely phenomenal. And I think it might be more potential than how I really think, but
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping that the Vikings took him instead, or waited on a quarterback and took him at their second first round pick to see if they would do it. So
Yeah.
I like him. I like him. I think he's got some almost Joe Burrow esque to him.
Sure. Yeah. Right on. Very cool. Um,
And the drum roll.
so I actually went with the homer pick and JJ
Oh,
McCarthy. Yep.
JJ.
So
Okay.
um, so this is going to go kind of into our thought process about coaching, right? So I think that JJ McCarthy has the tools to make plays. I think he's used to having the spotlight on him and having to put the ball where it needs to be at the right time, right? Um, I, they've been showing a lot of, obviously with us being Minnesota based, we get to see a lot of the highlights from training camp. And
Yeah.
he's been making some really nice passes. Made two nice passes in the game the other night. Now, granted, he started off a little shaky with an interception right off the bat, but yeah, he was 11 for 17, 188 yards, two touchdowns, and interception. Uh, that's like uh, Tom Brady in a Super Bowl type numbers, right? What we were talking about earlier.
Have your defense carries you.
Yeah.
Um,
uh, but
yeah.
anyways, I know I was kind of going with more of the controversial pick there, but I really think that um, he really has a chance to shine. Because we do have all the weapons, right? I mean, if anybody can, eh, eh, we're supposed to have a quarterback whisperer for coach. So I mean, he's got everything going for him, right? Perfect situation, talent.
Mhm.
I so I'm just going to go with him. I think he could be our franchise for the future. A little setback with the knee, but yeah, that's where I guess I'll leave that.
I know a lot of Vikings fans are pretty excited to see what he can do in his career, and the guy lost, I think, one game in college and one game in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a winner, he's a champion,
Yeah,
so maybe he can bring that to the next step and bring the Vikings their first Super Bowl. I mean,
please, please, please,
there's
please.
there's only hope. I would do a mic drop, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can't. My number one, not surprising though. I took my surprise before. Caleb Williams, number one. Um, he's just a very good prospect. He has all the tools. I don't know if there's much that needs to be said about it. A lot of people don't like him. They might be overhyped, but
Right.
he has a lot of kind of a balance between like a Patrick Mahomes and I even to weird to say this, but like a Dak Prescott in a little way.
Mm-hmm.
He can sling, like you said, no looks, sidearms. He can
Mm-hmm.
scramble. He's got a cannon.
Yeah.
He's pretty accurate. It's his attitude that will stop him from being the best player in this draft, from being a possible top 5 quarterback in the league. He could be a CJ Stroud. I just
Hmm.
It really depends on his attitude because Chicago has now surrounded him with some
Oh
weapons.
yeah, definitely.
They even did they trade up or did they just draft Roma Dunze? But
Yeah,
now he's their third receiver. They have Cole Kmet. Like you said, they got Swift as a running back who's been pretty solid the last couple of
yeah,
years, and their defense is actually surprisingly a lot better quietly. So they might be a top 10 defense as well, and he might have that Tom Brady esque with that defense.
yeah.
So I hard to go against him right now, and I'm just gonna take the house odds on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything that we've said here, uh, anybody can just come out and blatantly say you're 100% wrong with your take. I mean, obviously, time's going to
Yeah,
tell, but
you're an idiot.
yeah, wouldn't be the first time somebody said it, and won't be the last time. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well, I mean, that's what we're kind of here for. Some controversial takes, some preposterous predictions. Um, and it just makes it a little bit more fun. I always like to go against the grain a lot too, just to
sure,
not just to rustle up the feathers, but there's always another side of the story on every
absolutely,
aspect that people don't talk about. And I
agreed.
think we do bring that out in some of these guys too. I did want to touch on something though, that there has been some Brandon Ayuk business going on. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah,
We touched on his
so
name, and he's kind of been up.
go ahead.
Oh no, I said
Oh,
we touched on his name, and
okay. Yeah, so yeah, from it sounds like that Ayuk and the Steelers, or the Steelers and the 49ers, have a deal in the works for Brandon Ayuk. Um, San Fran does have a long term offer out to Ayuk. So I think it's just a matter of if Ayuk's going to take the deal. And if he doesn't, I think he's going to be a Steeler. So it's kind of interesting position that the 49ers are in. Um, Ayuk was always one of those kind of players that never lived up to the hype until last year.
mm-hmm.
Now, because he played, yeah, I mean, he played very well. I want to say he was like a top 12 wide receiver in the league.
Yeah,
So
yep.
what was he ranked in the, like, within the top 60 or in the 60s for the NFL top 100?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think he was right in the 60s.
So I mean,
Close.
the guy, there's no doubt he had a great season. I'm just not willing to probably give him a long-term deal based off of the 1 year. Because is it he's going to sign the deal? Is he going to go back to his old ways where he's not running routes very crisply, not making catches, stuff like that. So
If he only played one good year, Green Bay should give him a shot.
uh, sounds good.
Now, if you're Ayuk and Pittsburgh offers you a bigger contract as part of this trade opportunity, where do you go? Do you choose the money, or do you choose the Super Bowl opportunity with San Francisco?
So
I don't know how, if they sign Ayuk, how they can afford everybody else. It's got to break down sooner or later, and people have got to get out of there.
I would agree with you. So here's my take on it. So if you finish your football career, I'm just going to make up a couple numbers. You finish your football career with $50 million, or you finish it with $58 million because you didn't sign that deal with San Fran. You took the money at Pittsburgh. But then you are mired in a team that has either Russell Wilson thrown to him or Justin Fields thrown to him. And not saying that they're going to be poor in Steelers, but we already have a little bit of a track record on what, you know, has there really been a wide receiver that has flourished recently under either quarterback? I mean, I know Fields is very young in his career, but um, when it comes
Yeah,
to,
it's kind of been a while, right?
yeah, I mean, exactly. It's, so I don't know. I, I personally would stay with the team that can get a Super Bowl. If you're truly about like greatness, you might forego a little bit of money, on the front end
Right.
to potentially get the rings.
I mean, it's easy for us to say from the stands, thinking, you know, gosh, you're making $20 million. Why are you chasing $23 million? The dude, you played 18
Mhm.
games and you don't have to play ever again,
Well, yeah.
or
I mean,
you don't have to work ever again. It's ridiculous, and that's becoming so money hungry instead of looking at the ultimate prize of a Super Bowl.
mhm. Yeah, like how many people have just like everybody like expected Dan Marino to have multiple Super Bowls right after his rookie
Yep.
year. I mean, going to the
Yep.
Super Bowl and setting a record for passing touchdowns. I mean, yeah, nobody expected him never to get back.
Right.
Right? It's
Kind of like a Joe Burrow,
yeah,
on the verge. But is he going to make it, or is it always just going to be a questionable thing?
yeah,
Stay tuned next week.
yep,
Well, with football coming around, we got to bring up some fantasy football here coming up in one of these next episodes.
absolutely.
And you guys with your drafts, hopefully you can use some of the information that we'll bring you here
Yep.
in the next episode or two that hopefully you find of importance. Maybe you don't like us at all and want to go the opposite take,
Mhm.
and that will work for us too. That means you still listened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we sign off, I got one more topic for you. So next year, Eli Manning is eligible to be a Hall of Famer. Is he going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Do you think he's
I would say
worthy?
yes.
Okay.
I would say yes. 2-time Super Bowl MVP
Mm-hmm.
is in a very few. What is it? 5, 6 people have it.
Right.
I think 6, maybe.
Yep.
That stands alone right there. I know he doesn't have the best overall career. I think he was like exactly 500 or something like that for a winning percentage.
Yep.
But both of his Super Bowls, I believe, were as a 6 seed.
Mm-hmm.
He played phenomenal during those 2 seasons, and I don't know if I would say playing only 2 seasons would get you to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But they beat the 18-0 Patriots.
They did.
He's had a little bit more success than just looking at his record overall. He's
Agreed.
He had like the second longest starting streak. He was an Iron Man in his own way.
Yep. That he was.
So I think it should be a yes.
Yep. And I agree with you on most of those takes. So I had seen a tweet asking that question, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I didn't think that many people thought that he was really that poor that he shouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean,
I would be surprised if he's not. I think it should be a guarantee lock that he gets in regardless.
yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah.
But it all depends on every other player's eligibility on how many they take in,
Mm-hmm.
and who's in the group with him. I know they mentioned it before, and it's a pretty good group. But I think he should be one of the tops in that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Within that as well.
So let me ask you this on a little side note. Now, what happens if Russell Wilson would have won that second Super Bowl that he was in?
As in, would he
is he
be a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, is he going to be a Hall of Famer? I'm not saying that he first ballot, but do you think he is eligible, or do you think he's worthy of being in the Hall of Fame?
So in an earlier podcast, which you guys should check out, we ranked most overrated quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl, and I had Russell Wilson number 1. So by that take alone, I'm going to say he is not a Hall of Famer.
Okay, and considering I also thought that he had one of the worst contracts in NFL history, I am going to say the same thing.
He is not the father. Yes.
Yes. Thanks, Maury.
And and you know what's funny is if they would have ran the ball with Marshawn Lynch, they win that Super Bowl. That's 2 Super Bowls for him, maybe an MVP. Then he gets into the Hall of Fame because somebody else ran the ball. You know who else got and is going to get into the Super Bowl because somebody else did a lot of work?
Who's that?
Find out next week. Mr. Tom Brady, everybody. Just kidding. He's phenomenal.
Nice.
Anyway, good work today, Gully.
Yeah, good work to you, Coach Bully.
We'll get some fantasy underway, and we'll come back with some more information. How about that?
That sounds fantastic. Sounds like a plan.
Sweet. Well, let's mic drop this and get out of here.
All right, sounds good. Bye.